It's been a month since Prismatic Evolutions has officially released, and things are starting to move and things are starting to level out. I think we have a good idea of where the set is as a whole, kind of where things are at, and where things are going to go moving forward. And we're going to start off by taking a look at the Pokemon Center ETB. You guys can see this is on the 1 month chart right here. It's up around 25%. And it finally started to move, after release. It came down quite a bit. And now you can see back here, it was 250, 260, and then it slowly started to climb every day. Now surpassing over $300 per box at 320. Now, this still has ways to go to catch up to the 151 PC ETB, which just cracked 400 recently, but it's not that far away, and it's moving fairly quick. And you guys can see last sold's pretty consistent, 330, 320, 330, all above at 300 or above, the lowest being 300. And 325s, 320s. So pretty consistent. 148 of these currently available. If you go to lowest listed from a starred seller, you're looking closer to 335, which would be a little bit above market. So which makes sense. So we should continue to see these to climb over time. It's not a big mystery or a big surprise. So that makes a lot of sense on the Pokemon Center ETB side. Then we have the chase card of the set, the Umbreon. Now, this is one that's kind of just held. You can see this is the past month right here after release. It's up almost 2%. You can see there's fluctuations happening, but overall, kind of around $1,600 card, give or take. It did go as high as 16 here, came down to 15, back up to 16, down to 15. So between 1,500 and 1,600. Now, this is one that, there's low supply still available on this card. Only 15 copies currently available on TCG Player. You can see the last solds. You do have one as high as 1,790 right here. But before that, 1,650, 16, high 15s, low 16s is what we're seeing. And a few as low as 1,500. So, kind of, like I said, a little bit in a range. It is fluctuating. Lowest listed currently is around 1,635, which would be a tinge above market price, but pretty close to the most recent sale on the Umbreon. So the Umbreon, the big chase card, hard to pull, extremely difficult to pull, and just not that many copies out there. We're going to talk about the PSA 10 pricing right now, and I do think that the prismatic pricing is really affecting this card. We're going to talk about population on this card as well. And, these are the last solds. $4,000 and just a little bit under. 3,900, 3,500, 4, 38, 36, 36. 45 seems kind of like the high. So mid to upper threes to low fours. Pretty consistent is what we're seeing on the last PSA 10 sales. Now, the pop report is available finally on PSA. It wasn't available for a while. You can see the gem rate actually looking pretty decent. 752 cards submitted already, and 309 tens. So not the best, but not the worst. But with how popular this set is, there's really not that many copies that have been graded. I understand it's very difficult to pull, but I think what we're seeing here is potentially, I know on my end, and I know with a lot of my friends, a lot of people I know, a lot of people in the Discord, that this set is being opened less than ever. Because the ETBs and all the sealed product have been so expensive out the gate, it's just like, and the pull rates, and you combine that with brutal pull rates, it's like, I go, well, I'm not really going to open much. And I haven't. I've opened one ETB and that's it. So, it makes sense that, this population is going to be kind of suppressed while people aren't opening it. So that's kind of an interesting factor to see. Like, we'll have to see over time, because there's so many of the Moonbreon PSA 10s. I think it just cracked like 15,000 10s recently. Albeit, time has been on that set for a long time, right? So you have years on Evolving Skies, and so I do understand it's early, but I do think that people not ripping it does play a factor. Let me know in the comments if you agree. Like, to what extent? Like, is it going to be like, are these PSA 10 prices going to remain high just because of the low supply of Umbreons available? Then we also have the regular ETBs are starting to move as well, which I do think is interesting. People were talking a lot about this in the comments of a lot of the videos. You can see even back here on this chart, you know, it was free falling. The ETBs were falling, 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 falling until the end of January. You know, they went down all the way to $100, just over 100. And then, you know, the month of February, they've started to climb. There was a little dip right here, went back down, came back up, went back down a little. But now we're seeing back into the 127. You can see there's a lot of quantity available right here on TCG Player. So still a lot of supply to go through. You know, and obviously it's only up 4% from back here, but it is going to be up quite a bit off of this January 31st price. So the regular ETBs are starting to move. You know, nothing crazy right now, but $127 for an ETB of a new set is high. It is crazy, but it's prismatic, so that kind of adds up. You can see last solds as high as 145, but kind of consistent 120s and even 130s. So it looks like this probably is going to go up. If we go off of what a starred seller has now, a lot of the times they're listing the sleeves and everything on here, which is super annoying. I wish they just had a separate area for that. But if you go to a starred seller, you know, they're at the lowest listed from the first starred seller is 130, which is just a little bit above market. So, you know, they're betting that these are going to go up in price, which if I was listing, I'd probably guess that they're going to go up, and I would wait and I'd list them a little higher and wait till the price meets that. But you can see, you know, back here, this was pre-release pricing. The pre-release pricing high was 150, and then that's where it fell off of. You know, release day was right in here, around 120. It's kind of where they came down to. Then there's some other singles that are moving down and some other singles that are moving up, which I do find interesting as well. You got the Sylveon, which in the past month is down 14%. There's low quantity available, low supply, but not as low as the Umbreon. You can see back here, upper 500s. It's kind of come down all the way down to, they got market at 501, but the most recent sale being at 450. You do have one as high as 575 with photos. That might be, maybe it was a PSA 10 candidate, possibly. You know, but before that, mid to upper 4s to low 5s, fairly consistent on the Sylveon. So, you know, this is more traditionally what we tend to see upon release is prices coming down. Lowest listed from a starred seller is 470, which would be below market. So it looks like the Sylveon might be coming down a little bit. Maybe it started just a little high, and it's got to come back down to where the market feels it's an acceptable price. But it hasn't been hit like crazy hard, right? It's 14% is still 14%, but it hasn't been like, it's not diving down crazy like 30, 40, 50%, which is what we've seen from other sets in the past upon release. They would just come down really fast. The Espeon is one of those ones that's doing the opposite, though. Potentially undervalued upon release, and now it's shooting up into the $400 range. You know, a month ago it was at $330, and you can actually see had the most sales back here at this price. 7 sales, low quantity available, right? 14 copies, $330, and now we're up into the 4. They got market at 418, about 27% up. Most recent sales all higher than that. The last few 428, 450, 436, and before that, pretty consistent in the 420s, 430 range. You got one as low as 380 for English copies. So the Espeon moving up. This is a stunning card. I pulled this one in the Japanese, the Terastal Festival, and it's a nice looking card in person. Obviously, all the Japanese ones look nice. You can see from starred sellers, they're at around 440s where it starts, which would be a little bit above current market price. So once again, they're thinking it's going to go up. I would probably agree with that. Given the current trajectory of the card, I would list a little bit higher just to get a few more dollars out if I was a seller on TCG Player, which I am not. But the Leafeon, on the other hand, it's kind of going down. And once again, nothing crazy, 20% down, about 19. Back here, you know, it was up in the 400s. Now it's dipped to like mid 3s. Only 15 copies available. Common theme, right, is there's not that many available. 360, 370, 360, 360, 360, 350s last sold. So maybe coming up just a tiny bit. If we go off of lowest listed from a starred seller, they're right at 370, which is a little bit above market price. So we'll see if the Leafeon bounces a little bit up. But yeah, it's come down. It's not too surprising. We'll see, we'll see where the intersection happens. And like, I think right here, so the Leafeon being current market 350, then you go into the Flareon, right? So the Leafeon's at 354, the Flareon's at 353, and this one's up. So we could see a pass, right? And the Leafeon price could drop. It kind of looks like what we're going to see potentially happen here. Only 11 copies of the Flareon currently available and near mint. A month ago, this was a $226 card. Now, this one looks like I think this is the biggest gain. 56% is pretty impressive. From the 226 up to 350 with the most recent sales. 365, 390, 380s, 400, 367. So it does look like this one's going to continue to rise. Give it just a little bit more time. Lowest listed from a starred seller is at 400, so that would definitely pass the Leafeon in price there. The Lord of the Rings Flareon card, I don't know if it's just popularity or people ended up liking this art more, or what the exact reasoning is for the Leafeon to be coming down so much, because I do think the Leafeon's a nice looking card. I don't know. I'm not exactly certain, but I do know that this is a nice looking card. And, we're seeing a little fluctuation, reevaluation of the cards getting properly valued in the market. Then you have the Glaceon, which is up as well. It's not as crazy, 11% up, right? So you could see the little bit of shuffling that's happening. With the Umbreon, I feel like the most interesting part about the Umbreon, in my opinion, is that it's just kind of held consistent. And we've seen that with the Pikachu from Surging Sparks. Kind of held consistent for a while now. So I feel like that's kind of interesting that it's holding that price point so consistently. But the Glaceon from 280, just from 280 up to 315, there's more copies of this one available in the 20s, right? 22 copies. Pretty consistent sales in or around the $300 range on the Glaceon. Lowest listed from a starred seller, they're at 325, which would be a little bit above market on that one. Then you have the Vaporeon, which is down not as much. It's only down 8%, going from 320 to around 295. 20 copies available on this one. You can see last sold's 300, 296, 289, 270, and then a few in the threes. So a little bit about market, seems about accurate. Lowest listed starred seller English copy 315, which is a little bit above market currently. Then you have the Master Ball, the Umbreon Master Ball. Now this one's gotten hit a little bit harder, and I think we're learning that, it's just not quite as rare as we would have anticipated on the English side, possibly. I think that's why, you can see 50 copies available on TCG Player, which is compared, it's not a special illustration rare, right? But it is difficult to pull, but apparently, it's a little bit more common. A month ago it was at 370, 373, and now we're, in the upper 200s with the two last solds being lower, around 240. Before that you did have a higher one in the threes, but then kind of all in the twos. So it looks like possibly the Umbreon coming down a little bit more. Lowest listed around 250 right now, which would definitely be below this market price, but closer to the most recent sales. So looks like Umbreon Master Ball probably coming down a little bit more. We'll see where it bottoms out. It'll be interesting. I'll keep you guys updated on that. Then the Jolteon, it's another one of those cards that's seeing an uptick. It's up around 20% in the past month, from around 230 up to 275. Just under 20 copies available, with the last solds being 275, 278, as high as 348, and before that, pretty consistent in the 240s with a few outliers. These are interesting outliers. One as low as 190, and then two as high as 347, which I do think is a little bit interesting. So we'll have to see where the Jolteon ends up as well. Starred seller at 278, which is pretty much at market, just a tiny bit above. The Eevee is up just a little bit, 5%, kind of, I would say flat-ish, but it is up, 5% from around 230 up to in the 240s. 21 copies available. This is a nice looking Eevee card. we're gonna get that other food Eevee as a promo coming later, but this is the Eevee SIR we have from this set, and a few of these last solds actually lower, 218, 220, 218, 210, 228. So it looks like the Eevee might be coming down just based off of those last few sales. Lowest listed English copies around 225, which is below market. So it looks like the Eevee might be dropping a little bit. Then you have you got the Ceruledge card, which is a stunning card from the set. It's up around 60%. So this is one, and I talked about the Roaring Moon. I thought potentially could do this, and there still could be time for that to happen. Being that card, that non-evolution card that gains some serious traction. I thought it might have been the Roaring Moon, but we haven't seen that happen from the Roaring Moon. It could still happen later, but we're seeing the Ceruledge because this card is super cool. The art style is super sick. I haven't seen it in person in English, but I have seen it in Japanese, and the texture pattern is really nice on this card. But this one's up 60%, going from around $148 card up to $236. 17 copies available. You can see the last solds for English at 230, 245, 240, 215, 230, 230. Before that in the two teens. So fairly consistent over $200. Lowest listed's around 235, which is right at market price. So it looks like this is where the Ceruledge is probably going to stay for now. But yeah, big gains on the Ceruledge, up 60% is, pretty impressive for that non-evolution card. Then we had some releases that did happen as well. For some sealed product. Now, these haven't been out that long. You can see these are pre-release pricing being sold back here. We had the mini tins come out, right? And they've come down, not crazy, but back here they were at $260, $270, and now they're just over $200. So the mini tin displays, which hold 8 mini tins instead of 10 like we've seen from some other sets. So holding just over 200, and you can see very consistent sales. Just over the $200 range. So I don't think these are going to move too anytime soon, right? I think they're just too fresh out. You can see, pretty consistent listings. I mean, we'll jump to page 2 to check on a starred seller, but they're a little bit higher at around 218. That's where it kind of starts. But like I said, these just came out, so you'd have to give these a little bit more time. Like I said, we've seen what the regular ETBs did. It just took some time for that to happen, right? Then the surprise boxes came out as well. You could see pre-release pricing was pretty high, around $100 for those. Then they came out the gate around 70, and now we're seeing, it looks like they're settling in the 60s. Now there's a lot of these available, 411. So we're not going to dive too deep into this, but the surprise box is settling in that $60 range for a new Prismatic product. We still have the booster bundles, which are one of the next products to come out, and I'm actually kind of excited about that. Hoping to be able to snag some booster bundles would be nice. But you got the binder collection pretty much flat in the last month. It's up 0.3%, so they're in the $60 range and they're holding steady. You're gonna probably need these to sell through quite a few before the price is able to move on those. Then you got like the text sticker collection. These have moved just a little bit. They're only up around 5% in that $30 range. Nothing crazy on this side as well. It's just, we have I think there's 2-pack blisters coming out soon with the coin, I believe is what's coming out. Let me know if that's wrong. I know there's a 2-pack blister coming out. I just don't know. I think it's a promo card and a coin. This was the sticker, you got this 3-pack sticker and a promo, which, is a fun product. But, this one hasn't really moved as much either. There's not a ton of this one available. Obviously, there's different promos. This is the Glaceon one. So if you combine all the text sticker collections with the different promos, there'd be a lot more available. But 94 of the Glaceon currently available. So, yeah, we're seeing the set kind of overall settle down, which I do think is interesting. With the sealed... like I said, the Pokemon Center ETB leading the way. I do think what's going to be very fascinating with that is if and when surpasses the 151 Pokemon Center ETB. That's going to be the interesting thing for me because, last solds on the 151 ETB, just cracking barely, just cracking that $400 mark or just under. It's like right there. There has been some sales at 400 and then a few kind of below. So that will be interesting to see what happens there in regards to that, because 151 has been the dominant specialty set of the era, and so it'll be interesting to see if Prismatic can dethrone it. Obviously, you have price wise the cards being much more expensive overall in Prismatic, but it'll be interesting to see if the sealed can do that same thing. And yeah, the consistency of the Umbreon, and then the little bit of the fluctuation that we're seeing around the evolutions, and then the Ceruledge taking off. So I do think it's an interesting time. It's got a little bit of time behind it, so we can kind of start to gauge it. Low pops still, on the PSA side. However, also worth noting on the PSA side, I did hear recently that PSA is backed up. They're backed up pretty far. So there could be a lot of those Umbreons sitting at PSA that just haven't been graded yet. So that might also be playing a factor. You combine with slow PSA times with people not really ripping as much and low supply of the card. It's going to make for low pops. So we'll see the PSA 10 side of the Umbreon. Maybe you give that a little bit more time and that price can come down per card, but I don't know. If demand is so high and the PSA 10s are kind of like drip fed out there, this is drip feeding apparently. Drip feeding. Maybe it should be like this: drip, drip, drip. You know what I mean? Like an IV. It's just dripping. Cards out there. They're not able to meet the demand. Then maybe those prices they won't come down. Because there's just not enough supply to meet demand. But that's all I got for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. My name is TJ. Welcome to It Was Never a Phase if you're new here. I'll see the end gang guys in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one. And remember, it was never a phase.